Hey, this is Adam. Since my first video, I've spoken to a lot of people about my experience of going to Europe to be treated with DCBs and scaffolds. What I often hear during these conversations is, if these were real technologies, my doctor would have told me about them. Well, no, not really. Not if you're in the United States, and quite frankly, not if you're in some other countries either. For many people, stents are not a good option. There are many reasons why your doctor may not want to put a stent in, and you specifically may not want a metal stent in your heart. In these situations, you may have been told that bypass is the only other option. Well, I've helped quite a few people in this situation go to Europe, and trust me, these technologies are real and quite commonplace. But why should you listen to me? I'm just some random guy on the internet. I don't have any medical training. I'm just somebody on YouTube. Who you should be listening to are actual cardiologists, like this guy.
I recently, as I said, joined the US. In the US, one of my colleagues said, in the US, the physicians that are not acquainted with DCB so far, angioplasty is just to put a stent. So just put a stent. So that's different. So with DCB, we have reinvented the art of angioplasty. We have reinvented the art of angioplasty. And I love to say that because I'm really passionate with dealing with complex coronary lesions.
And these guys.
I've been working now in New York for 5 years, and for me, the thing I miss most about Europe and not having in Europe is drug-coated balloons.
And especially this guy.
And they opened my eyes to a whole new world of angioplasty without putting stents in. I then came home and decided I would very gently start working out how to do that in a safe manner in my own hospital. Within 6 months, my practice had changed, so I was DCBing at a rate of 50%, and over the next few years that went up to over 90%. The rest of my department then gently shifted, and since about 2015, as a group, we've been DCBing and stenting at around 50-50.
All doctors from Europe who are 4 world-class cardiologists talking about DCBs and scaffolds. The internet has lots of information by doctors about this topic. Problem is, it's all very clinical and medical and hard to get through. I've boiled it all down for you. If you have cardiovascular disease and have been told you need some kind of intervention, like bypass or PCI, then this video is for you. Please keep watching because I've got a lot more to show you. I'm Adam, and I flew from Mechanicsville, Virginia to Milan, Italy to have my heart revascularized using metal-free PCI. I did this because the options in the United States are very limited, and if you want to find out more about what I did and why I did it, then please keep watching. So hey, let's get right into it. We've got a lot to get through. I will be showing you snippets from longer videos made by doctors for doctors about DCBs and scaffolds. For each video I show you, I will include the full link down below in the description so that you can watch the whole thing if you like. They're quite long. That way you'll know that I'm not cherry-picking this information. First, let's hear from some doctors from around the world about DCBs and scaffolds, including some data about how effective they are.
I don't necessarily see drug-coated balloon angioplasty and drug-eluting stenting as competitive technologies, rather complementary. Diffuse disease, small vessel disease, sometimes bifurcations. These are areas that we tend to use drug-coated balloon angioplasty in. I know there are other colleagues who are more enthusiastic adopters who then use it across the range of de novo vessel indications.
Keep your hands up if you use drug-coated balloons for in-stent restenosis. Okay, that should be pretty much everybody. Keep your hands up. I didn't say put them down. Keep your hands up if you treat native coronary disease with drug-coated balloons. Okay, that's quite a lot of people.
Now, we will go into what are the special scenarios where we find drug-eluting balloons very useful. So the most common indication is for people who want a so-called metal-free PCI. That is, they want their hearts to be fixed, but they don't want any metal sticking into their body in the long run. So for those kind of patients, I personally feel drug-eluting balloons will be the go-to options.
We started DCB in 2014 in my unit when I started my job here, and now we are 50% DCB users. It's taken us almost 10 years to get to this level.
And there's no need to put metal.
I think there's a lot of excitement and interest in this concept of limiting caging of the vessel, allowing the vessel to return to its normal vasomotion, allowing maybe even some positive remodeling. And I think, we've seen that become an area of great interest, and maybe this is where current PCI is going.
Here, 1,475 patients, you can see that there is some benefit over time when using DCB and not implanting drug-eluting stents in small vessel disease.
Because angiographically, at the beginning, we don't have the idea of a really good result, but follow-up, it's really amazing the result that we can achieve. So I think that we really have to consider the DCB a tool, an important tool in patients like yours.
A few years ago, if I was trying to ask them, what do you think about DCB? I'm using DCB in CTO. Oh, you're crazy, stent. Now everybody, also in the CTO symposia, everybody is saying, I want to use a DCB because... So everybody is jumping on this for many reasons, but I have to say that we did believe since the very beginning into this technology.
Now, as a patient of these technologies, I've made it clear that I like DCBs over stents. I've said before, stents are a great way to save your life, and they're some of the best technologies to do that in an emergency. However, they're really not a great thing to have stuck in your heart arteries for the rest of your life. They're problematic. Let's hear what some of the doctors have to say about that and why they like DCBs.
But, what is so bad with stents? But we've seen this at a lot of these types of meetings. The difficulty is that with a stent, once the stent is in there, there is stent-related MACE that doesn't plateau. So it's between 2 and 3% per year. And that keeps on going every year. So if we follow patients over 10 years, there's no plateau in that, and we see it year after year. So, if we have a patient who's, in their 40s and who's going to have maybe a life expectancy over 40 more years, they're going to accrue a lot of risk related to that metal that's in the artery over that time.
So I've got a few conflicts first, perhaps, that I should own up to. I don't like stents. I'd like scaffolds even less. I still like my angioplasty, and I really like my drug-coated balloons.
Drug-coated balloon angioplasty for de novo lesion of the left anterior descending. I like the LAD because the LAD, in my opinion, is a vessel where you don't like to implant long stents because you close many septals and you impair diagonals.
We looked at all of our patients. We found a very clean cohort, elective patients, no previous angioplasty, no previous heart attack. Propensity matched 2 groups, DCB only, stent only, and showed at long-term follow-up that the DCB patients were surviving significantly more than the stent group, which made us feel that we were justified in our approach.
Okay, let's now talk a little bit specifically about diffuse disease. Please note in the following videos that the words diffuse disease, lung disease, small vessel disease, and serial lesions all refer to the same type of situation where you have a long blockage or lesion in an artery that's very small. In these cases, DCBs are the preferred method to treat them.
But in diffuse disease, in diabetic patient, and in the vessel where we don't want to put a stent, we have some tools like the drug-coating balloon that can absolutely help us. And in both cases, we saw an amazing positive remodeling after the use of DCB.
But then we think about other applications where drug-coated balloons may have an especial utility and perhaps some advantage over the use of stents. And that includes the treatment of small caliber arteries, in which if restenosis does occur in a small vessel that's treated with a stent, putting another stent already within another stent within a small caliber vessel is only going to further complicate the issue. Secondly is in very long lesions where we've had a term of full metal jacket or placing extensive stents throughout the length of the artery.
So I would like to conclude that DCB is a good option for diffuse disease, especially in LAD. We do not cage the vessel for later cappage, for example. Bifurcation PCI is very simple.
But as far as which drug-coated balloons I use, so I got to tell you, the sad thing is I live in New York and I work in New York, which is, we have many advanced technologies, but we don't have drug-coated balloons here in the United States yet. But when I worked in Europe, and I still do cases in Europe, there's a lot of drug-coated balloons available. I kind of look at drug-coated balloons as devices I use in lesions where I would prefer not to implant a stent. Okay, so this kind of case where I showed you, where there's diffuse disease and there's diffuse small vessel disease, I'm trying to minimize the amount of stent implantation. I prefer drug-coated balloon, right? And I really like it in diffuse small vessel disease, I have to say. And I define diffuse small vessel disease as vessel diameters less than 2.75 millimeters.
Now, let's look a little bit about what these doctors think the future holds for DCBs, scaffolds, and stents.
We know what the guidelines say. Everybody should have a stent. We've been doing it differently for the last 10 years. There is a lot of data out there. Our safety data is published everywhere. We believe in the whole concept long term of not putting stents in people for these reasons. So we get people that have never even had an angioplasty before that say, I don't want a stent. I want you to use a DCB.
But definitely, I can assure that regulating balloons are here to stay, and they will one day replace stents to a great extent.
My view of generally of where angioplasty will be going in the next 5 or 10 years is, as you probably guessed from my talk, a little bit biased. I would suggest that we need to redress the balance and we need to move away from stenting the vast majority of our patients. I think in 5 or 10 years' time, we will end up in a place where the leave nothing behind approach will drive the majority of our angioplasty. And I would hope that we would be using drug-eluting balloons of a variety of formulations in the majority of our cases. I think it should be the number one destination therapy for angioplasty. And I think after that, we would then end up with drug-coated balloons is over 50%, perhaps 60 or more. Scaffolds, I think, will take up some of the rest of it.
Okay, let me tell you. In short, I have helped quite a few people make the journey to Italy to get these technologies instead of bypass and instead of stents. They've all been very successful. Let me reiterate, I am only a patient. I have no medical training whatsoever. I do believe in these technologies, however, and I'd like people to understand that they exist and that they are available. Everything I show you here is so that you can learn about these technologies and have an intelligent and meaningful conversation with your cardiologist about them if you are in need of some sort of PCI or other cardiac intervention. If you want to know more, please contact me at mydcbjourney@gmail.com and I will get back to you. I have talked to many people about this and I always get back to you. Just make sure you put the word Italy in the subject line. I'd like to point out that I do this simply to pay it forward to other people because these technologies can save your life. I have not monetized this channel and you may have noticed that there are no advertisements here. I do not get paid anything and I am doing this solely because I want to help, not because I get any sort of remuneration for it. So please be clear about that. These technologies saved my life and I am really interested in hearing from you if you would like to know more about this. So please let me know. Thanks.